FTL is an unexpectedly hardcore game despite what the graphics would have you believe. A badass and complex roguelike spaceship simulator and resource management game, it's definitely not something you just pick up and play on a whim. FTL Faster Than Light also features real-time combat with pause and random interactive narrative events, in case you weren't sold on it already. You start with a 3-person crew on a spaceship called the Kestrel. An interesting choice for the name of a spaceship, but artistic license and all that. You can easily customize the names of both the spaceship as well as that of your crew. I found this to be great, not only because I could name my starship the NCC 1701, but naming the crew something I could recognize made it easier and faster for me to assign them to their appropriate ship systems. It would have been somewhat easier if we could customize the color of our crew members' uniforms as well. Unfortunately, that cannot be done. The ship is made up of several main systems and 3 subsystems. Most of the main ones need to be powered in order to function and will work better if they are manned. Working consistently on the same system through the voyage will also upgrade that particular crew member's related skill to that system. So that's where specializing your crew makes sense, and then remembering who does what quickly becomes important. Thankfully, the game allows you to record the crew positions with a button and send them back to their positions with another button when they get scrambled around the ship for various reasons, which they will. The availability of fuel is one thing that is paramount in FTL, and oftentimes the decision behind whether or not you'll spend more time exploring a sector will come down to the availability of fuel. This is one of the 3 base resources alongside rockets and drone parts which you cannot sell, but you can buy from stores. Through your exploration and mostly fights, you'll pick up scrap which you can then use to further upgrade your ship system, subsystems and reactor, though you will also encounter the occasional shop where you can repair your ship and maybe purchase some better parts as well. The game puts you on a ticking clock, however, your ship being on the run from the nasty rebellion. You start a few turns in front of them, but the more time you spend in any particular sector exploring the various beacons, the closer they'll get to you. On the other hand, bolting towards the exit beacon isn't an ideal strategy either, since the encounters will become steadily more difficult as you advance through the various sectors, and you need to get through as many of them as possible in order to upgrade your crew and gather resources to improve your ship. FTL features random events that add narrative flavor and strategic challenges. You might encounter traders, find distress signals, or face tough moral dilemmas. These are here simply to complement the core of exploration, combat and management, so don't expect some Stellaris grade chain of events or narratives, but on occasion, some of your past decisions will return to haunt or bolster you. These random narrative events are also the only situations where you can trade with your 3 base resources as an added bonus. The fights can take many forms thanks to a diverse array of weapons and approaches that can be taken both by you as well as your enemies. The danger of fire on the ship is always present, but thankfully you can actually open the airlocks to let all the air out of the sections of the ship that are on fire and extinguish the fires that way. Not always advisable, but a great option to have. There's also the possibility of teleporting enemies or bombs onto your ship, and that's when your crew has to get all up close and personal with them, whilst at the same time making sure to not get too pummeled by the enemy ship. Of course, you can do the same as well, it all depends on how you choose to upgrade and outfit your vessel. There are also various spaceship types with unique layouts and strategic advantages which you can unlock as you progress through the game and fulfill different achievements, which opens up the game even further, allowing you to customize and experiment with different weapons and system builds that fit better your playstyle. Maybe you like a more glass cannon approach, or you're really into boarding actions. The other ship designs will allow you to further spread your tactical space wings. However, getting them will require a heavy investment of your time into the game. Now for that hardcore part I mentioned at the start, the game has only one save slot. Not only that, but it's a save and quit button, so you save and then the game closes. Now you might think that's not so bad, many of us usually play a game with just one save slot so as to artificially increase the difficulty of said game, but FTL takes it a step further and doesn't allow you to ever return to that same exact save if you've already reloaded and played a little bit. So quitting the game during an unsuccessful encounter hoping that you can return to the earlier and safer save will only result in the bitter tears of permadeath. The game also features the opportunity of selecting whether you want to play the initial base game, as it was released in 2012, or to play the Advanced Edition, which was released 2 years later and adds more events, ships, equipment and features to the game. My thoughts on that are akin to my thoughts on playing vanilla StarCraft instead of Brood War. Sure, you can definitely do it, but why would you? The invisible gameplay elephant we must address is the RNG aspect, which goes beyond the earlier mentioned narrative encounters. With the exception of the beginning and the very end, the rest of any playthrough will be randomly generated. This means some playthroughs will end much faster than others because sometimes RNGesus will curse you with some of the worst encounters and battles possible. Usually you will be able to make it through at least a few systems depending on your decision making as well. However, that process will also be relying on what you have to work with in terms of resources and options, so your decisions are also heavily based on the RNG. This is a semi-long and roundabout way of saying that even if you're feeling good about a particular run and making it through the sectors, you may still lose at the end because that final part is brutal, even on easy. This is a core aspect of the game, and you either eat the risk or you don't. There's no real in between here. As far as the graphics go, the simplistic pixel sprite approach works great to enclose the very solid and complex gameplay. It is basically function only, but something that would be stylistically improved in the studio's second game, none other than Into the Breach, which I've also covered on the channel. The soundtrack does a great job at immersing you into the artificial atmosphere of your starship. It's a pleasure to listen to during playtime, and it's actually relaxing to listen to in your spare time as well. FTL is obviously much more complex than what I described till now. I only offered a detailed snapshot of what the game is about and how it works, but you'll get a much better sense of it once you experience it for yourself, because FTL, Faster Than Light, is definitely worth both your time and money. And for those of you still watching, is FTL a classic? FTL was released back in 2012 and was one of the signs of the indie renaissance we were about to witness. A pixel art game made by a super small team that got funded through Kickstarter. It was definitely a pioneer of the era in this respect, as well as being one of the few titles that popularized the roguelike subgenre, and one of the major reasons behind this status is that it did not disappoint. As mentioned earlier, the game received a free expansion called the Advanced Edition, released 2 years later, and the continued sales of FTL allowed the developers to move on to a second title, which I argue is just as good, Into the Breach. Looking at it now, FTL is nothing necessarily new, partly because it did help the stage for roguelike likes to follow. What it does is to implement tried and tested mechanics revolving around resource management, balancing risk-reward, and a very engaging wait for orders combat system very well, and builds all of that upon an RNG component that does not frustrate as much as you'd think it does. The developers were aware of the level of complexity they were building into their game, however, and offer a very solid tutorial section which you absolutely must play if you're new to FTL. Learning by trial and error with this one, I think, will simply be too disheartening for many. I would definitely consider FTL an indie cult success that managed to ascend into the realms of becoming a modern classic, and it's definitely one of my subjective modern classics for sure. Did you play FTL at release, later on, or never? Let me know in the comments, as well as why. I wanna know.